Hello guys, this is Mr. Siege and welcome back to another Siege tier list. In fact, the second one ever. Okay, this is the only second one I've ever done, and we're going to do it a little bit differently. I mean, we've tested Stephen now, we've tested John, and we've tested the new Epic Commanders too. All the commanders have been tested. There's one commander I haven't tested yet, and I will be testing in the commander swap. He's not an engineering commander, and if you look to my channel, I did run a poll, and he came top of the list for you guys. You wanted to see me expertise him, and I will do. So we'll get onto that very, very shortly. The way I'm going to do this tier list initially is start off by doing a little bit of a low investment tier list. So, you know, if you ran Margaret at 5511 or Stephen at 551 or even Garge Armada. Now, we're not going to run Epic Commanders at low investment. They are low investment anyway. You can max the Epic Commanders, and obviously they're going to feature on this also. Now, they're not going to be very high up. So obviously I've done my testing, and they're probably going to perform very, very nicely at KVK2, but that isn't going to be the case in Season of Conquest, really. You probably will get some goodish results. You know, I'm thinking, you know, this D tier is going to consist of like 2-to-1, 3-to-1 trades in your favour. And obviously, as you go up, it's going to be increasing. So A tier might be like 6-to-1 trade. S tier will be 7-8-to-1 trades potentially. Obviously, it depends, you know, on your gear and stuff like that. But it's very, very possible to get those sort of trades with these commanders, as you may have seen from plenty of other reports. So we're going to get started, and obviously we're going to start right at the bottom. Now, we've got Julius Caesar on this list as well, in fact, and Julius Caesar has to have the museum buff. Okay, otherwise it's not going to work. And what his museum buff does is it gives you some extra march speed, which is great, but he also gives you 20% more damage, and that's all damage, and obviously that boosts the other commander's skills, the active skills and anything else they do. So in D tier, we're going to start off with our guy Cordoba. Now, obviously Cordoba isn't a D tier commander, he is S tier. Okay, he is the best engineering commander, so he will end up here, but we're talking low investment. Now, I'd always suggest to just max Cordoba. He should be maxed. If you haven't seen my last video, it shows you why he should be maxed. He's the best engineering commander, and you need to go out and max him. And in this next commander swap that's coming up, as some of you've already got, you need to be maxing Cordoba. Okay, if you want to run Siege March, max Cordoba, end of. Now, you can run him at 5511 and 5515, but you won't get the high damage results you want. So, the first D tier commander pairing is going to be Cordoba and Narcissus. Now, I'm very, very fond of Narcissus. Okay, he's a great commander, and you know, if you pair the Epic Commanders together, they're basically going to be in a lower tier list. They're going to be like E tier. Now, if you haven't seen my spreadsheet already, you have to go and check it out. We've done a test with every single commander so far. Probably the top 10 in that list, maybe even top 15 in that list, perform so well. That's 15 different pairings. Obviously, those are legendary commanders, of course. They perform almost as well as each other, but there's one march that stands out above the others, and you'll see that in the S tier very shortly. So we'd have Cordoba with Narcissus. It's a good march, but it's not going to perform anywhere as near as S tier and A tier, because obviously we're running an Epic Commander, although it gives good healing, and obviously Cordoba deals very, very nice damage. So in this tier also, and I've not written it on Margaret on the face or anything like that, but this is 5111 Margaret. So imagine 5111 Margaret. She can be paired with Cordoba, obviously Margaret primary, and they're going to work very, very nicely on the field. Yes, just 5 points into Margaret's first skill. That's a very, very cheap investment. You know, it's probably easier to do than to get Narcissus to max level, to be honest with you. It's going to cost very, very minimal gold sculptures. Yes, you will want to get it to level 60, which is kind of costly, I guess, but that's your next best option. And obviously, you can only go up from here. So we've got Cordoba Narcissus, we've got Margaret Cordoba. Now, the worst option, and many of you could go for it, would be Garjamada paired with Caesar, with Caesar's relic. Okay, and it's not a bad march. These are all kind of on par. But yeah, if you had Garjamada max for some reason and you didn't have Cordoba maxed, you can run him with your Julius Caesar with the museum buff and you're going to do pretty well. So let's get on to the C tier. I'm not going to mess about any more in the D tier. Yes, there's lots of other pairings you can run there, but you can go and look at the spreadsheet and that will show you all the best results that we've had. It shows you the units remaining after the end of battle and the amount of damage it did to the enemy. So in C tier, we're going to have Cordoba again. So Cordoba is going to feature in pretty much every tier. He is going to feature in every single tier because he's the best commander. And if you want low investment, you can run like a 5-5-1-1 commander with Cordoba, and you're going to perform okay. So Cordoba paired with Stephen this time at 5-5-1-1 would be your best C tier investment. Stephen's healing is fantastic. He does mighty healing as well as Garjamada, but obviously Stephen's healing is on his first, his active skill, and Garjamada's, you have to wait until his third skill until you get that bit of healing, and that gives you longer time on the field, and time on the field equals more kills. So Cordoba and Stephen at Cordoba max, Stephen at 5-5-1-1 is a fantastic march, and yes, you're thinking C tier here, you think C tier isn't great. These will perform very, very well. You're going to get probably 3-4 to 1 trades with these commanders, or at least you can do. So, next up, we're going to run Cordoba again, but this time with Julius Caesar. So that performs better than the Garjamada Julius Caesar, of course, because Julius Caesar is buffing Cordoba's AoEs, 3-target AoE. Now, next up, we're going to have Margaret again. Margaret this time at 5-5-1-1 and Cordoba as secondary. So that's obviously a step up from your 5-1-1-1. And Margaret's now 5-5-1-1. Now there's no healing on this march yet because you have to wait until Margaret's expertise to get that bit of healing. Now, Margaret's full skill is extremely useful, but it's not you that just benefits from that. It's your allies that benefit from that. The 20% defense reduction for the troops hitting at the front line, and that's very useful, but you don't need it to run your march if you want to be a little bit more selfish, dare I say it. We've got Margaret 5-5-1-1, Cordoba expertise, of course. Now you can run Garja at 5-5-1-1 with Cordoba expertise, and that's going to be in the C tier too, a little bit worse than the Margaret at 5-5-1-1, surprisingly. And you'll see why that's surprising when we get to the S tier. Let's jump up to B tier. Now, before we do though, you may have noticed we didn't add Catherine into here, and unfortunately she's going to drop into E tier, I think. Now, I do love the damage reduction. Sorry, not damage reduction. The damage taken on the enemy troops that she does, and obviously she does buff commanders around her, and that's very useful. But in this, a lot of siege players, they just want to do damage. Like we want to hurt players, and she's gonna have to just, like, be subbed in another march to cause that little bit of extra damage and buffing your commanders. And I'm not sure she's worth it, to be honest with you. She may be running a 4th march for me in the next KVK, so we'll see how that that sort of goes. But for now, yeah, I'm leaving her out. I'm going to leave her out, guys. So moving on, we've got 5-5-1-1 commanders here. Now we're going to have max commanders in this level, and we're going to have Baba and Stephen. So these two are maxed commanders now, and we're also going to have Stephen with Cordoba. Stephen isn't the best primary in this march, you see. So if you had Cordoba Stephen, he's going to be an A tier, and we'll get to that in a minute. But Stephen Cordoba, if you wanted to run them that way around, if you've maxed Stephen, got to level 60, but you haven't Cordoba for whatever reason, well, in fact, you might not do that when you look at the S tier results. You could do this. Now, the next best option I think you've got here is if you actually increase Garjamada to 5551, and he would give you some decent B tier results. Now, we've got other commanders here that could go in B tier, but I think these would be your main choices. Now, we haven't mentioned John yet, because really I think John has to be expertised. He's kind of a mid commander, and the only thing that doesn't make him mid is the addition of Stephen. So I wouldn't even run John at 5511. I think it'd just be too weak. So we've not added him into the mix just yet. However, when we come to this A tier, you will see him appear. So first of all, top of the A tier would be Baba Cordoba. And the only thing that's not good about this march is there's no healing. It absolutely slaps. It probably hits the hardest out of any of the marches you see today. But there's no healing, no longevity really. But this is actually probably our second best march in my opinion. Now, Margaret Cordoba is fantastic, and you could say Margaret Cordoba is better than this march, but for me I'm going to put it a bit lower. Now, if you're bothered about march speed and you want the marches to get out of the field a bit faster, you're going to want to run Margaret Cordoba. Okay, Margaret Cordoba is very, very fast. She's a support commander and she's got great march speed, so that works very, very nicely. Now, in this tier as well, we've got Garjamada with Baba. In fact, we're going to move him a bit further down. So you would have Garjamada with Baba about here, and Cordoba with Stephen expertise would be in this tier also. These are all kind of on par, and you may want to pick certain commanders over the other. You know, you may want to pick Margaret, like I said, for the march speed. You may want to pick Baba, just you want as much damage as quickly as possible. And you may want to pick Garjamada for the healing and tankiness, because Garjamada with Baba just lasts so long on the field if you're not getting hit directly. Now, John makes an appearance as expertised in the A tier paired with Stephen, and really any of the pairing with John just doesn't seem to be working. Now, I've not tested it in certain scenarios where John is hitting half health troops. I've only tested that with Stephen, and when I did test this with Stephen, they were kind of on par with the S tier march, which you will see very shortly. But for me, I don't want to be just picking off targets all the time, picking off the 50% health marches, and that's why I just think it's too much micromanagement to be doing that. And top of the S tier, which I'm going to show you in a second, you don't need to do that. You can be hitting any target. It's going to last for ages, and it absolutely slaps. So we're going to get onto this S tier right now. Now, honestly, these guys who put in A tier, they are so close to this top march that if you ran any of these, you will be absolutely delighted with your siege march, your siege results. You're going to say, Mr. Siege, look, you said these are A tier commanders, and my God, they are doing a fantastic job. But there's going to be one march in this S tier right now, and it's Garjamada with Cordoba. It's still the best march, guys. So if you're going to do your commander swap and get any siege pairing, max these guys out. Okay, now I did say Garja at 5551 with Cordoba would be in the B tier. And yes, you could max him later down the line, and that's probably the best thing to do. But get your hands on these commanders and expertise them, and you're going to be absolutely satisfied on the field, believe me. There is just an honourable mention, And I did mention to you guys that you've decided which commander I'm going to swap for in the commander swap event. And that is none other than Philip. Okay, so Philip actually has a few skills that could be so good for an engineering march. And obviously his active skill doesn't work because he's not an engineering commander. But on his other skill sets, he does allow you to do 30% more damage. So obviously Caesar's Museum Bus was 20% more damage. But not only that, so with Philip's expertise, he gives your primary commander a 20% chance to recast his active skill, which is absolutely crazy. So if I was to pair Philip with Cordoba, you're going to have like 20% of Cordoba again, buffed by 30% all damage, and I really think that could be a fantastic pairing, and I actually can't wait to test it. So guys, I will be swapping someone for Philip, and we will be expertising him. I might just swap a 5-5-5-1 commander with him and then use sculptures to max him, because that might be actually a lot cheaper. But we've still got that to see. We'll find out. And I think yeah, Cordoba and Philip could be an absolutely amazing march. 20% chance to recast Cordoba's active skill and do extra AoE is... It could be broken. Could it be broken? I don't know, guys. What do you think? I think it could be very, very nice. Now, this is the Siege tier list as of now. Hope you enjoyed it, guys. Now, if there's any questions, please don't ask them. I mean, of course you can, really. Yeah, drop us some questions in the comment section. I know you will have plenty of questions to ask. You guys always do, and it's fine. Honestly, it's fine. So guys, hope you enjoyed. This was Mr. Siege, and bye bye.